Hey guys, it's Christina with My Confection Obsession, and today I'm going to be making a Valentine's Day cake. So Valentine's Day is coming up, and I knew I was going to make a cake for the holiday, and the theme for this cake is going to be things that go together. So like things that go together like bacon and eggs, like milk and cookies. I've seen these before on like really cute cards, and I wanted to do my own take on like a really cute pun. So I have some different things that go together, and we're going to go ahead and get started. And to do this, I'm first going to roll out some shapes with my fondant. And you guys can see I have my templates here. So I had to make these ahead of time just so I could visualize what the cake was actually gonna look like, and also to get the correct sizing. So I forgot to mention, I do have a 4-layer 6-inch cake that's already frosted and crumb coated and ready to go. So for us, we are gonna be doing, we go together like avocado and toast, like milk and cookies, and I wanted to do a milk carton for this because I think it looks so cute and it reminds me of elementary school. And then my husband's personal favorite, like wine and cheese. So you guys can do your own take on this, but these are the things that I decided to use. So I'm just using my own homemade marshmallow fondant recipe, and I'm just gonna start by rolling out all my different shapes. So my shapes are gonna go against my cake, so I don't want my fondant too thick because I'm going to be sticking them on the sides with a little bit of dab and hold. So just keep that in mind. So I'm just gonna place my template and use my X-Acto knife to cut around. So after I have all of my shapes cut out from my marshmallow fondant, which I forgot to mention, I will also link that recipe in the show notes if you want it. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to lightly draw some lines into the shape, kind of as a guide before I start painting these. So this is really gonna help me with like the final presentation so that everything really looks nice and streamlined. And as much as I like to freehand when I paint, sometimes it does help me to have a little bit of a guide. So in order to paint these, what I have a bunch of different colors of food coloring that I'm gonna end up using. And I like to use gel food coloring because it's a little bit more concentrated. And I'm gonna be mixing this with food grade alcohol, and the alcohol ends up burning off. So it's perfectly safe to use. And I like a really watercolor look for this. Like these are gonna look almost like a homemade illustrated look, which I love. So very little color and definitely a lot more of this, so it's almost like a wash. So I'm just going to start by putting a little bit of the vodka in my little palette. And then I know I'm going to start with my avocado first. So I'm not putting my gel coloring directly into the liquid. I'm going to mix it separately. So I know I'm going to want some lime green, a little bit of brown, and then I'm probably going to use a darker green around the edge, but I'm not sure yet. So just the smallest amount to mix in here. And I don't want it super, super watery, so I'm just kind of putting some of the excess liquid on the side of my palette, and I'm just going to give this a wash of color. So something you guys are going to want to know is that these do have to dry before you place them on the cake, otherwise you're going to potentially get like fingerprints and kind of just ruin your shapes. So you're going to want to do this ahead of time. so this can dry. So I would say at least 4 hours. I would just do them the day before if you're able to, so that they can dry, so you can kind of just like move them freely. I'm gonna give this a darker outer edge. So for this, I'm not really gonna water down the gel food coloring. I'm just gonna actually, maybe a tiny bit watered down. So I can see this is bleeding a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a paper towel to try to just kind of absorb it, and then I'll paint over it with the green. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue the same process for each of my shapes. So just a little bit of gel food coloring and giving them a watercolor finish in the colors that I want. So I'm gonna set this guy aside to dry. So I have all my different fondant shapes that have dried. I actually made these yesterday, so they've been drying overnight. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add in all the little details to make these characters. And I'm gonna be using Americolor food coloring pens. So mostly I'm gonna be using black, but I might use a little bit of red as well. So I ordered these on Amazon. I will link them in the show notes. They're super handy. I use them all the time. You could also use black gel food coloring with like a really fine paintbrush to do this, but I love the pens, really easy to use. It's like gel eyeliner to me. Now that my characters are drawn and like their faces are on, I'm actually gonna add a little bit of pink powdered food coloring, just for like a little bit of color on their cheeks to really give like that animated look, and it's like super cute. So this is just powdered pink food coloring, and I'm just gonna carefully add it to where the cheeks would be. Alright, so these look darling. I love how they turned out. I am going to set them aside because I'm actually going to cut out a few red fondant hearts, because I know after I place these on the cake I'm going to want to add some more like Valentine's Day themed decorations, so I'm going to get those cut out really quickly. So for this I'm just using red fondant, and then I have this little heart plunge cutter which I found online, so I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well. So I'm just going to roll this out. I'm going to make a bunch of them. I don't know how many I'm going to use, so I'm just going to make a lot. Fondant characters on the top, I'm just going to add some details around the side of the cake. I am going to add a border here just to clean up this edge. And now I'm just going to use some Wilton dab and hold to start placing my hearts all over the cake. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to add my little characters on the top of my cake by just inserting cake pop sticks. I'm gonna stand them up against it. I've used this technique a lot of times before if you guys watch my channel. Okay, so my Valentine's Day cake is done, and I think it turned out really well. It's super cute and exactly what I wanted. And I do hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel.